Great. Well, thank you very much, Kathy, for organizing the meeting and getting us going. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This is our monthly call with the wastewater operators, with DEP and EPA. A reminder that we are recording this conversation as we record all of them, and we put a link to the recording on our MassDEP website for in case it's useful for reference purposes, and we have it where we have other information related to operations during COVID response. We're joined by, as I noted, Kathy Baskin, our Assistant Commissioner for Water, Weldon Langley, and Susie King from our program. And I believe we also have good representation from our regional offices, recognizing that it's important for us all to be sharing the same information. We're also very fortunate to be joined by Denny Dart from EPA Region 1. And if it's all right, Denny, I might turn the floor over to you in case you have any updates that you'd like to offer to the group.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do have an update about the CDC program for wastewater treatment plants. And I'll put that information in the chat. But they are going to be doing another round of funding this coming year for treatment plants that want to monitor for COVID-19 and variants in wastewater. Currently, they have almost 170 locations participating. And they're thinking in the long term that they'd like to use wastewater for pathogens such as antibiotic-resistant genes, norovirus, the kind of E. coli you find in romaine lettuce, that kind of thing. So if you have an interest, you can contact Amy Kirby directly. I'll put her email in the chat, and she's keeping a list of those who would like to apply for the grant. And the grant has not yet been issued, but it'll be in the next month or so. That was all I had to report. Thank you.
And Denny, I just put it in the chat. Thanks for sending it earlier.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Denny, and thanks for joining us. And I believe, also something that we're working on together, and I think that it got highlighted at yesterday's drinking water monthly call, was the upcoming May 26th webinar on cybersecurity. It's called the New England Water Sector Cybersecurity Forum. It's May 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It sounds like a terrific program. We have federal experts on cybersecurity from the Homeland Security Department, DHS, other places, given the recent attention to cybersecurity, including the very unsettling event that we heard about a few months ago in Florida. I think this is a really timely topic, and hope everybody who can attend will attend, because it seems like a really great program that's coming up. We also are fortunate that we have John Murphy from our Board of Licensure here. And I might ask John if there are any updates you'd like to provide.
Yes, thanks, Commissioner. Just to update, the board is continuing to meet. All exam applications are up to date. The only thing I would like to mention and keep emphasizing is don't forget about training contact hours. You need your 20 TCHs by December 31st of this year. There is no intent right now to extend that or to reduce the hours. There's plenty of training opportunities available. As the commissioner just noticed, the May 26th cybersecurity has been approved for 2 training hours. Also, NUIPIC, Maui, and NAUIA all have workshops going on. So, please make sure you start taking your hours now. But that's it. Thanks for your time.
Yep, thanks, John, for being here and for being available for any follow-up questions we may get as we keep talking throughout this time. A couple of updates from DEP before we launch into questions and answers. We did get some questions in advance that we'll cover, and then obviously we also want to open the floor up to anything that people want to ask in real time, either through the chat, email, or just unmuting themselves and speaking in this forum. First, in terms of DEP, how we are doing business. We're continuing to do business the same way we have through the emergency. I know you're hearing more about, we're hearing more and more about, planning for reopening in our state and other states. You've seen some recent announcements from our governor. We still, at this point, we're still continuing to work in the mode that we did. We are working with our colleagues across state government to make sure we're using the latest data. And if plans start to change about how we are operating, we will make sure that we are letting people know. In other words, if a facility is reopening, again, we have no concrete plans and dates right now. But if that should start to happen, as we develop our plans, we will let you know and let you know timely. We're continuing to use the best health information and making sure that we are continuing to put a premium on the health and safety of the people we work with and for, as well as our own workforce. And so there's going to be, I'm sure, more discussions and more planning across our Environment and Energy Secretariat, as well as other parts of state government. We will keep you posted on that. In terms of funding, we are mindful of that there's a pending infrastructure bill in Congress. I don't know that we have any updates beyond what you're probably all seeing in the media, but we're all paying close attention to that. In terms of funding that has been passed, we've spent some time talking on these calls and with the drinking water calls about a $638 million account designed to help with people that are in arrearages for their water and wastewater bills. As we talked about last time, the money had not yet been dispersed from the federal government to the states. I think that is getting closer to happening. As we understand it, the monies might be coming in over the next few months. I believe we have been staying in contact with the Department of Housing and Community Development. I think there's some thinking at the federal level that these funds would be distributed in the same way that funding through the low-income heating assistance program are administered. DHCD has a lot of experience in that. I don't believe Jen Peterson from MWWA is on this call. She was with us yesterday, and she had reported that she'd had some additional discussions with Housing and Community Development about, they're clearly thinking about the planning efforts. They're going to stay in touch with her, and we will make sure that we are, communicating what we know about it. But it sounds like something, plans are moving forward at the federal level, which will then translate into work at the state level. And we'll do our best to keep you posted. Again, it's likely to be administered through our Department of Housing and Community Development, but we are staying in contact with them. Kathy, I know you've had some opportunities to engage with them. I don't know if there's anything in particular you'd want to add at this time.
Oh, thank you, Commissioner. So I have also attended some meetings with DHCD, and there has been representation from both the water supply and the wastewater sectors at these meetings. So folks who are directly impacted, the monies would go to the individuals who are low-income customers or ratepayers, not necessarily to the utilities, but we would be at DEP helping to connect DHCD to the utilities so that they could identify, the customers in need. There were a few, there needs to be a plan developed by DHCD in order to administer the funding, and Health and Human Services at the federal level would be approving that plan. There's also, in Massachusetts, we don't often see renters as the, as paying the water bill, but in the federal legislation, it does say that the renters would benefit from this. So DHCD is trying to figure out how that would work. So there are quirks trying to take it from the federal level to the state level where it would be directly applicable. But they're working on it, and there was some talk about perhaps the money arriving into the Commonwealth next month, or in May or June, but then it would take a little while to get the plan up and running. And it maybe would be several months before the money becomes available. But we'll definitely stay on top of this.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. So with that, we did get some questions in advance that we'd like to cover, and then, like I said, we'll certainly throw it open to folks. For anything that's coming up. I think I might have even seen some things in the chat while I was talking, so we'll make it a point to make sure that we cover that. The first, a couple of the questions we've gotten are actually PFAS related as opposed to COVID related. And so, because they came in advance, we'll deal with them first, but, clearly this is, if it's PFAS or COVID, feel free, going forward to ask whatever you're interested in. But these questions come from Mickey Nowak of Malia, and the first question is: has any thought been given to going after manufacturers and producers of PFAS products? Parentheses, the actual polluters, to recover the cost of testing at treatment facilities. This is a very lively discussion, and it's a discussion really that's taking place in states all across the country. Some states have actually initiated litigation against manufacturers. Other states are like Massachusetts, still gathering information, working with our Attorney General to develop approaches. We know litigation like this, as it's been with other major national pollution type of litigation, can be very complicated. So there's a lot of preparatory work being done. But I would say it is a topic of ongoing discussion between us and our Attorney General. We obviously aren't going to share, the legal strategy, and that right now, but we are mindful of it. Like I said, some states have initiated litigation. A number of states are thinking about it. And so we're taking stock of what we know about the costs of PFAS here in the Commonwealth, and what we know about the sources of contamination. The good news is we've been doing a lot of work over the past 2 years to really get a sense of where PFAS is coming from, what types of uses appear to cause problems, and we're continuing to do that work. We have a sampling program going on around the state. We're continuing to work at federal facilities where sources of contamination have affected nearby communities. We're dealing with water systems and helping them if there's an unexpected discovery. So it's ongoing work. So yes, we are thinking about it. It's an area that we're going to continue to work on, and we're going to make sure that we're fully considering the all of our options, because we do recognize that whether it's a drinking water system, a wastewater system, people are incurring costs. But we'll keep you posted and make sure that we're keeping you up to date. We'll also be interested to see, as the federal government is doing a lot on PFAS now since the change of administrations. There have been several announcements about developing standards, pursuing chemical designations. So we're interested to see as the new federal administration begins, what types of efforts they're going to be undertaking. and what they're supporting. And so we'll continue to work with them on that. The second question is, has DEP made any cost estimates of what the quarterly PFAS testing of effluent and sludge will cost a facility? And we do have rough numbers at $300 per sample, plus the need for QA/QC samples like blanks. Quarterly sampling could cost between $5,000 and $10,000 a year. So that, again, right now, based on the cost of sampling, that's our best estimate. This is a comment as opposed to a specific question. I guess it's both a question and a comment. The comment asks for us to work with EPA to consider something here, which is there are 34 small facilities in Massachusetts eligible for the NIPD's general permit. The frequency of PFAS testing for these small facilities should be reduced from 4 times per year to 2 times per year. The cost of PFAS testing is expensive and will affect small facilities disproportionately from very large facilities, which have the same frequency of testing. They're using here Monroe as an example. The design flow is 0.015 million gallons per day, about roughly 40 households. The cost of PFAS will be very significant. Compare that to other larger systems with thousands, hundreds of thousands of customers, where it's a much smaller part of the budget. Mickey notes that there are roughly 130 POTWs in Massachusetts. We will get plenty of PFAS data without putting a financial burden on the very small facilities. So the question is, can you vary the frequency of testing? It's a great comment. We appreciate your making it. It's under consideration right now. I know you've made it to both DEP and EPA, and we will fully consider it. And thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. So with that, I think those are the questions we got in email in advance of the meeting. And Kathy, I'm not so great at reading things at the bottom of the screen. So if you could help us with, any questions that have come in from the comment box, that would be great.
Sure, Commissioner. We have a couple of, they're actually comments from Fitchburg around what, I think it's around the PFAS issue. Funding, supporting staffing and training of potential future treatment. Oh, this is just a broad one. Potential future treatment operators and attracting candidates to the wastewater work would be very welcomed by the wastewater utility managers. And that actually sounds like a really good comment or question for John Murphy, whom I met with this week, along with Andrea Briggs and Mike Maynard, to discuss this exact issue. So I don't know, maybe and then Jeff also says, it would be nice if there were support for the unfunded mandate, support for damages and restitution from source producers for PFAS. So I think Jeff's raising 2 issues. One is training future operators and support for that. And the other is support for or finding restitution for the PFAS damages.
Right. Let's take the first one, and I agree with you, and I've heard this comment from any number of parties, making sure that we're training the next generation. We have people trained and available for this important work, and I really do want to commend Kathy and in particular John Murphy and Andrea Briggs. They're always looking for opportunities both on the drinking water and the wastewater side to promote training, to partner with academic institutions, to create more opportunities for what are very important and I think very meaningful jobs. And so we agree with you on that. John, I don't know if there's anything in particular, given your ongoing work on this issue, that you'd want to highlight, but if you did, that would be great.
Yeah, there's nothing specific. It's an ongoing process where we're doing as much outreach as we can to the technical high schools, community colleges, trying to drum up interest. And obviously, if we can find some additional funding sources for internships, additional programs, we are eager to move on that. So it's on the agenda, just trying to put the pieces together.
Great.
But in a
Yeah.
serious way, we've been working hard on this, and we've identified partners like Project Excel, and we're also working with our diversity office to help broaden the pool and provide opportunities to professionals of color. So we're really seriously diving into this.
Yeah, yeah, and again, we think there's a lot, I think when people know more about these jobs, I think they become increasingly attractive. And so we're trying to make sure that we are working in partnership with you and the academic institutions. Again, we've had discussions with community colleges, a number of technical high schools and others. We're eager to do that, and so we'll keep working. We'll keep working in that regard.
I think our next step on that, Commissioner, is that Andrea Briggs was going to contact some DPW director types to introduce them to the concept of a co-op and what that means and doesn't mean in terms of liability and how they can work with the student and what sort of some of the parameters are around that, just to make sure that they know, that it's feasible and it's a great option for the utility and for the student.
Yeah, maybe either at an upcoming session like this one, or if people think it makes more sense to do it in a focused discussion on just that issue, maybe we could have Andrea, join us and, have the team talk a little bit about where we've been and where we see the opportunities.
Great. And I see a follow-up comment from Jeff, who made the comment originally, says he will reach out to John Murphy to discuss this, operator staffing, attracting people to the industry further. He's part of New England Waterworks Association's Waterworks Committee, and this is a committee priority. So that's great because it's a priority for MassDEP too. Yep.
Very good.
And then
and Kathy, I think you went on mute.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if anybody was trying to comment on that one, but Jeff's other question was around the restitution for PFAS damages.
Yep. I see Justin just put something there, the Youth and Environment Program that's been going on at EPA for over 30 years. That's in the comment bar, and that might be another connection. But yeah, on the second issue, the idea of restitution, we're fully on board with that. That's part why when we've been doing work with some of the water systems where if we're finding, levels of PFAS that, suggest nearby contamination. We've worked in some communities. We'll do that because one of the ways, we can help with the problem is if there's a, responsible entity, identify it so that, there's more resources to bring to bear. The manufacturers, is definitely something that it's a national conversation going on. And we are, as I said, we're continuing to pursue it. So we'll keep you all posted on our plans and how we can move forward. It's very complicated, but a lot of people are looking at this right now.
There was a question from Will Branton of Situate about the legislation for folks who had been working on PFAS issues out in the field or at their normal workplace. Do we have clarification on who would be covered by previously mentioned retirement benefit legislation? I think it mentions state workers, but not municipal workers. And I think that was the issue that came up last time.
This is Mickey Nowak from Maria. I think that's incorrect. It covers
Okay.
all municipal employees. I think the legislation reads Commonwealth in its divisions.
Oh, yeah, so that would
Yeah.
be everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mickey. That's an update from last time. Mark Young has asked, any status of Massachusetts becoming a delegated state?
Yeah, there's been no change in that. As you know, we made a couple of efforts to get the legislative support and to become a delegated state, and those efforts were unsuccessful. For the NIPD's program. So we're continuing to work in the the system that we have with EPA, and we did not, the administration did not file legislation this year, and I'm not aware of any before the legislature. So we're working in the system that we're operating under. Us in New Hampshire, I think, are still two non-delegated states, and so we trade notes a lot on our best practices, but that's going to probably be how we're going for the next few years, certainly.
I have a message from someone who sent it directly to me, and this is similar to a conversation we had yesterday, Commissioner, about the chlorinated or chlorine tablets, like the pool chlorine versus the gasified chlorine at plants. And are there impacts to small wastewater treatment plants as a result of the chlorine tablet factory fire in a major chemical plant in Louisiana? And so I know yesterday that this came up on the call with the drinking water systems, and they did not see that they had been impacted. But I don't know if maybe folks here have seen something otherwise.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do want to, get that feedback because, as we talked about yesterday, we see the same media that you do. And this is a little bit like early in the COVID emergency when I think people were worried about oxygen for, treatment plant purposes and other chemicals. It's a great reminder. It's a great reminder for us that we should stay in touch because I know EPA said what we said, which is if you're getting a sense from your suppliers that they're either unable to provide or they're fearing that they might not be able to provide needed treatment chemicals, let us know so we can let our colleagues in emergency management and other areas know. I think so. We definitely want to hear about that. I think on yesterday's call, the sense was this affects, and again, this is why it's important to talk about it. This affects the pool chlorine more than the chlorinated gases that Kathy was talking about for treatment processes. But again, maybe we'll pause here and see if anybody is having any supply chain issues. Okay, not hearing any. I think it was Springfield who said they'd actually had that discussion with their supplier, and that particular supplier at that time was not concerned about being able to meet the need. But again, this is an important reminder, and I'm glad it came up that and MWRA says that it's also not seeing any supply limitations. Thank you, David. But let's make sure that we keep it on the agenda, and if something is coming up, we'll certainly do the things that we can do to make sure other people know about it that could be helpful. So I think that's probably where we are able to go on that.
And we certainly, and I remember yesterday also EPA, both EPA and DEP emphasized we really want to know about any supply chain issues that come up. and please notify us right away. I think EPA said they were able to work with federal partners, and we certainly could work with MEMA to help address issues should they arise. Here's a question from Betsy Riley from the MWRA. Any updates on the sewage notification regulations? It turns out that all, in capital letters, wastewater facilities, including those that may have SSOs, will be subject to it. Do they know? Are future meetings planned?
Well, great question. And luckily we have Kathy and Leldon here to help flesh it out. But we've had several stakeholder meetings. We're on an aggressive timeline to get regulations passed, because we have to have regulations passed by the end of 2021 so that the law can become effective some period of time later in 2022. We've had the stakeholder discussions to tease out the issues. Betsy, you're right. It's not just CSOs. The definition in the statute is broader, and we're trying to actually work through that. And that's been some of the discussions with the stakeholders. We think that probably the next best thing we can do, based on the input we've received, is to put out draft rules for comment. And we're working on that now using the input that we got. And so I would expect in the next month or two, you will be seeing draft rules from us. Do I have that right, Kathy and Leldon?
Yes, that's right. So we're expecting to get those out in the next month or two. And we do plan on having additional stakeholder meetings, because once those regulations are out, we have a lot more work to do with the permittees and the advocates on actual implementation. What will the signs look like? What will the messages include? How will we know or detect a discharge? If it's Saturday night and the operator is sleeping, and how is he going to know that there's been a discharge and that he's notifying people in 2 hours? So we will need to work with the stakeholders to nail down those logistics.
So more to follow on that, and we'll use all of our means of communication to let you know when our next step, again, the draft rules. People want to see what we have in mind, so we've done our best to take input and come up with a proposal for people to react to. So coming soon.
And I just want to thank Mickey Nowak for putting in some additional information about that retirement COVID enhancement bill. So that should help folks who were wondering about that. I don't see any new questions that are questions that haven't been answered yet in the chat. So maybe we'll ask folks to unmute if they'd like to.
Okay, doesn't sound like we have any takers right now, unless somebody's having trouble with the mute button, which I so often do. But if not, we will make it a point to first of all, we will be back here next month. I think is it June 2nd is our next session, this session. In the meantime, if we have updates on any of the things we talked about, be it Pfast or NIPDs or the sewer notification bill, we will make it a point to use our blast emails, different means of communication with all of you to make sure that you're getting the word, and vice versa. If there's anything of that you'd like to raise with us, you know how to reach us, whether it's Kathy or Weldon or myself. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure we're keeping the discussion going on any number of topics that are important. And with that, let me once again thank you. This has been an extraordinary 15, 16 months we've all been going through. And as I noted to the drinking water operators, you know, you, the wastewater operators, have done a phenomenal job of providing an absolutely essential service in the protection of public health and the environment to our citizens in very difficult circumstances. And I really want to thank you for the ongoing work. And we have a lot of work that we're doing together right now. We're committed to listening to you on issues and making sure that that we're collaborating and being as thoughtful as possible in our work together. So thank you again, and I hope everybody has a good balance of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.